Hi all, my name's Brennan Ty and I'd like to welcome you to this workshop on the flipped classroom. The overall aim of the workshop is to provide you with an overview of the flipped classroom and outline one or two benefits, as well as take a look at a 6-step process that will help you prepare and develop your flipped learning environment. The flipped classroom has been in existence within the broader educational sphere since about 1990, when Harvard professor Eric Mazur developed a model of peer instruction. Flipped learning only really became popular in 2009 when John Bergman and Aaron Sams, two high school chemistry teachers, hit the headlines because of their innovative approach to teaching, specifically using video. Since then, the inverted classroom has flourished. We have seen a rise of open educational platforms such as the Khan Academy, and as a pedagogical model, it has been taken seriously by researchers across all disciplines. Here's a scenario which I think will probably be quite familiar to all of us. So you've delivered the lecture, you think it went well, it felt like the students were engaged with the session, there was a good back and forth of questioning, and by the end of it you're feeling quite positive. Regardless of that, you know yourself there will be a number of students who just didn't get it. These students will go away and attempt the student learning only to be frustrated, and after a while the seed of disengagement has been sown. This is where the flipped classroom may help. So what's all the flipping fuss about? All classes, regardless of where they delivered, have a wave-like motion that moves between in-class time and out-of-class time. In the non-flipped classroom, the class time is taken up by a lecture delivered from the front of the class, and the out-of-class time is used by the students to undertake some form of student-centered learning. The flipped classroom inverts this model, whereby the out-of-class time is replaced by a lecture, usually in the form of a video and some supporting material, and the in-class time is replaced with the student-centered activities where they can ask for clarification on concepts they did not understand, engage with other students, practice the application of concepts while getting guidance and formative feedback from both peers and yourself as a lecturer. According to the Flipped Learning Network, flipped learning is a pedagogical approach in which direct instruction moves from the group learning space to the individual learning space, and the resulting group space is transformed into a dynamic, interactive learning environment where the educator guides the students as they apply concepts and engage creatively in the subject matter. Flip the expectations. Flipped learning is not just about flipping the way that the students engage with the material or how the material is delivered. It is also an opportunity to flip the expectations of the students. To paraphrase an old proverb, you can lead the student to water, but you can't make him think. A lot of students, especially new entrants into higher education, are likely to be conditioned into the expectation that their education and learning is the responsibility of the teacher. We must teach them. We must tell them what to learn, and how to fix things when it goes wrong. The flipped classroom requires that from the outset, students must take ownership of their own learning. They need to engage with the video and the supporting material, as well as participate in the active learning to get the most out of this approach. As a pedagogical model, flipped learning provides the students with a number of opportunities for them to be able to take control of their own learning. Firstly, it allows the students to learn at their own pace. They can pause, rewind, fast forward, and even slow the lecture down. In fact, one of my students likes having the ability to shut me up anytime they like so that they can concentrate on what I've said and take down some deeper notes. Students can also access the lecture content whenever and wherever they like. Because the nature of the videos being posted online, either via YouTube or through Moodle, the students have the ability to access those wherever they have an internet connection. I've also found that a lot of my students have downloaded the videos onto their phones or tablets and watch them whenever they get some space. The flipped model also provides students with multiple opportunities to learn the content. By providing multiple means of representation alongside the video, such as reading, reference material, or other media sources, you can cater for more than one learning style. One size does not fit all, and it is not a strict requirement for the students to view the videos if they choose not to. By allowing the students choice in how they learn, this can empower them. Students can realise that their learning is their own responsibility and make the most of the subject while they have access to these rich resources. The flip model frees up more time with the students to help develop individual learning programs. The fact that I don't have to deliver a lecture in class means I have more time to engage with the students. I have found that I have a much deeper understanding of the needs of the individuals, both in terms of the gaps in their knowledge and what are the best ways to help deliver the material that suits their particular learning styles. This deeper understanding of the students also helps with the implementation of the active learning elements within the class time, especially group work, where students can be grouped in such a way that everyone, including the wallflowers, can contribute and peer instruction happens. This way, everyone in the class can increase their understanding and engage with different aspects of the materials as well as supporting their peers. As the students become more responsible for their own learning, we should also shift the focus away from us being the sage on the stage and move towards us being the guide on the side. The active classroom. This change in our focus can be put into practice through the in-class learning activities. These can be anything that best meets the learning outcomes for that particular session. You can enter into robust discussion, undertake problem-solving activities, pair and share, basically anything that engages with the content in such a way that it reinforces the pre-class work and promotes the deeper learning of the material. There are many different exercises that can be done as part of the in-class elements that engage the deeper learning. These can be anything based upon your subject specialisms and industry best practice. Just bear in mind that the discussions around the material should be initiated by the students and not the staff member where possible. All of this activity puts the students at the centre of their learning, giving them multiple opportunities to really master the subjects. As a result, I have found that the students have a greater understanding of the material, know where the gaps in the knowledge are, and what it is that they need to do to fill those gaps. Students are much more likely to go ahead and fill the gaps in their knowledge after the sessions because they have been deeply involved in the creation of the content and taken complete control over their own learning. How to do it? Flipping is not just about the video. If you just add a video to your existing module structure, then all you have done is given them an extra hour of content. Flipping, to some extent, is an ideology based around student-centered learning, community of inquiry, and constructivism. To help that process, here are 6 simple steps that will help you create the flipped classroom, and these steps can be used to flip an entire module or just a single lecture. Step 1. Define the content. If you are planning on flipping the entire module, the first step is to slice the module into appropriate units, topics, or whatever is appropriate for your discipline. There are a couple of things to think about, however, when doing this. Firstly, what are the topics that the students have historically struggled with? Or if it's a new model, then what are the general misunderstandings or misconceptions that are common with that subject? So for each of these, chop them up into connected packets of learning, considering what the learning outcomes for each of those packets, ensuring that they fit into the wider context of the module. If you find yourself looking at a packet and realise that it can't be flipped, then that's fine. Not all lessons are flippable. Some just won't work because either the nature of the content or the requirements of the specialism. Even if that is the case, this process can still be useful to help create and develop that student-centered learning which is at the heart of the flipped classroom. Develop the content. Identify what concepts or learning outcomes you would like the students to access on their own, and what concepts or learning outcomes should be for the group activities in class. In other words, what do you want them to view and what do you want them to do? Once you have done this, you can then produce the video. When creating the video element, this is where you can have a little fun and be as creative as you like. Although we're not discussing the technologies of recording, I'll save that for a future step. What I will say is that there are many options out there for you. A video shot using a smartphone and a whiteboard, or a voiceover screencast or PowerPoint are perfectly acceptable. If YouTube has taught us anything, it's taught us that it does not matter about the quality of the production as long as the content is there and accessible. So, do you want it to be perfect, or do you want it by Tuesday? A couple of other quick tips is not to try and make the videos too long. That's a mistake that I've made in the past. It will make a difference to the students and to the production where there are 2 or 3 videos are created that meet the learning outcomes. The same content is covered, it's just put together in bite-sized student-friendly chunks. Also, ensure that not only the content is accessible, but the video itself. A good way to do this is to upload the video to YouTube, keep it private if you want, and then share the link on Moodle. Step 3. Develop the in-class activities. This is where we put together and develop the active learning aspects of the flipped model. It does not matter what you do in this part of the session as long as it extends or puts into practice some of the material covered in the delivered content that we've defined in step 2. The key consideration here is to make the activities engaging and promote higher order learning such as analysis, synthesis and evaluation. Ensure that when you're developing these elements that you're building some time and some activities to have some one-to-one time with the students where you're able to give some close formative feedback as well as get some understanding from them about what it is that they need to help fill any gaps in their knowledge. Step 4. Develop the post-class exercises. With the flipped classroom, we have to be careful that we don't overload the students with too many post-class activities and materials. These activities will be more effective if you allow the students to reflect upon the material that was created in class, as well as continue to apply the new knowledge created to perhaps more complex examples. The main focus of the after-class activities is to allow the students to check their understanding, as well as ensure that they have a mastery of the content covered. Step 5. Release the material. So put the videos up online with enough time for the students to go through it. I've found that 2 to 3 days beforehand, as well as giving that period of time after the timetable session, is usually enough for them to engage with it and undertake some of the pre-class activities that have been assigned. It is useful to give them everything that they need for the session up front. That way they can go through the information that they need in order to feel comfortable with the material prior to the class. It's up to you whether you publish information about the in-class activities or not. However, I have found sometimes that the students will focus on those activities instead of deeply engaging with the pre-class learning. Step 6. Evaluate the session. Once you have delivered the session, and just before you go ahead and either develop the content for the next session, spend some time reflecting on how that session went. Identify what elements could have been improved, did you have enough time engaging with the students, that kind of thing. I found it really useful in the past to simply ask the students how they felt the videos went and what they liked or disliked about them, and then make some changes according to that feedback the next time round. The student-centered ideology here has to be woven into the absolute fabric of the module. A ground-up redesign for the content is often very worthwhile. I will be very honest here, the process of flipping the classroom does have an initial overhead and will require a little more time in developing the content, but is very worthwhile and very rewarding. Okay, to quickly recap. The flipped classroom inverts the model of delivery where the direct instruction is undertaken by the students out of class and the deeper student-centered learning happens inside the classroom. The flip model is a good way to adjust the students' expectations regarding teachers and gets them to take ownership of their own learning. We've had a look at a 6-step process which can be used in creating and developing the flipped classroom, as well as helping to define the students what they will view and what they will do. So, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. If you've got any questions, please post them to the forum, and when you're up there delivering, break a leg.